Hello and welcome back to season 4 of the X-Files Revisited. After a well-earned break, we have returned once more. So. And we are jumping right back into episode 1, which is Herrenvolk. Brian, tell us a little bit about the legacy of this episode.
Well, obviously it's the season opener, which usually brings everyone back. You want it to be exciting. It's usually the second part of a mythology arc story. I don't really hear or see this one coming up much in chats, to be honest. I'm not sure fans are too enamoured with the whole bees angle,
right? Okay.
Which does become it does become quite a big thing. The whole bees thing, it is very much a part of the big plan. I appreciate it once you realise its connection to everything, but I don't know. It's all quiet, I guess, when it comes to this one. I can't say I remember many conversations on forums or anything. It's just not one that seems to pop up that much.
Okay, so shall we guess where it falls?
Yep, go on.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 72.
You're 20 out.
It's not 52.
It is 52. It's 52.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So, I'm judging by the look on your face, I can hazard a guess as to where we might end up with this. I don't know, but
we shall see.
Well, it's top quarter anyway. It's in the top quarter according to the old IMDb fans. Right. How representative they are of X-Files fans, we'll never know, but we'll go with it for now. Okay, so we'll come off the back of last season's episode, last season's cliffhanger. We got Budget Terminator. He's just about to come at Mulder and Scully, and we're not going to pick up from there. We're going to go instead to a...
Which, can I just say, was incredibly frustrating. Because you're like, okay, that's the end of this.
Yeah. And you get a recap as well. So right at the start, you get this recap of what happened last season. And it's like, oh, cut to black. And then it opens up on this nice little house on the prairie style meadow. The most sedate opening you could possibly have. That, when you just... It's like, can we not start the cliffhanger? Rather than... I kind of feel like this should have been should have been somewhere else in the episode, and the pickup of the Budget Terminator stuff should have been
100%, yes. Now remember, people have waited 6 months to find out the conclusion of that episode. They just threw the rug. They're messing with people.
And the thing is as well is once we get to the end of this episode, I'm not sure this whole telegraph poll worker thing is even necessary.
No, it's not.
And as I'm just like,
what? Later on, I thought they were going to use the van, and I was like, okay, it becomes...
that would have been a sensible idea, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and then they just walk away, and I'm like, okay, right. But we'll get there. I suppose we'll get there.
Yeah, it's just... Okay, so we have this telegraph pole worker. He rocks up in his van all sedate, like all the time in the world, guy living his best life. And he climbs up a telegraph pole, he's going to do some work. And suddenly this blonde-haired kid kind of appears down below, and he's like, hey, nice day, yeah? And then this other blonde kid who looks identical kind of pops up. He's like, oh, look at you two. And then 3, then 4. And then there's 5 of these. I think there's 5 altogether. Mm-hmm. There's 5 of these blonde kids. But it's basically like Village of the Damned looking,
Midwest cuckoo.
Yeah, big time. Big time. So they are, a bit like Children of the Corn as well. They've all just kind of come out of this field. And he's a bit like, okay, that's weird. It's randomly in the middle of nowhere, but all right, I'll go back to my work. And then he gets stung by a bee. And then he has a reaction to the bee, falls off the telegraph pole and dies while these kids just kind of merrily watch him before making their way off back into the field, never to be seen again.
Yes. Well, for 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
It's a weird opening sequence because it almost fetishizes this man getting ready for his work. It takes its time showing him strapping on all this equipment. For no reason.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah. It's like, just show him up the pole. You don't need to see him getting all this equipment and climbing it. I mean, it's kind of nice to see. It's fascinating, but do we need it? No. You get this kind of CGI bee that looks kind of funky, but by the time it's fine. And then we get the Village of the Damned appearing. What I particularly love about this sequence is the interesting little kick to the head to see if he's still alive that one of the kids gives him. Just a curious nudge, and then just like, meh, let's walk away. Yeah. So it's a sequence that feels unnecessary in the grander picture of things.
Yeah, it does kind of fill you, because you look at these kids and you think, wow, that's psychotic. But then obviously when you get to later in the episode and you realise they've literally had no social interaction with the outside world. They've been created to...
The worker drones. They don't talk or anything, they're just there to do a job.
So when they see this I mean, they may not have even seen another man before. Outside, whoever it is has kind of set up their plant or whatever. So to see that happen, and the little kind of, it kind of reminds me of Michael Myers in Halloween when he stabs the guy, and then he's just like staring at him. And it's like it's just a thing in front of him. He's just examining it. He doesn't quite understand it, but it's there. So yeah, but as far as an introduction goes, it is ultimately a little bit pointless, and also it kind of it gives you a bit of blue balls because you're coming off the back of the here's what happened last season. Now, guy in a telegraph pole.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I do remember when so the re-edited version of this is well better. So when they released this on video as a
feature
movie, feature-length movie, and it was edited. Obviously, they edit the credits out of the second episode, the opening credits, and they edit everything together. Then that's how it played. It played this scene was pushed up. It was moved past the. So it flowed a lot better when it was released that way. I
kind of understand why, because the next sequence that we get is probably the longest sequence I think we've had in any X-Files so far.
It's quite long, yeah. It's a big chase scene, isn't it? It's like they get a foot chase, and then there's a bit of a break in the chase, and then they run some more. There's another bit of a break, and then there's a whole car thing, and then like that kind of leads to another bit of a break. So yes, it is quite an extended sequence. So we'll get into it. Scully gets bowled over by Budget Terminator. BT. Brian Thompson. It's like he was born to play this role so that we could refer to him as Budget Terminator. BT, Brian Thompson. Okay, so it's Scully gets Mulder runs off and he's like, you can't use your gun on him, Scully, and he just runs off with Jeremiah. So what does she do? She holds a gun up at him and then kind of runs in his way, and he just goes poof. Yeah, big Terminator vibes with it. The way he's running around and jumping off buildings and slowly moving towards them.
Yeah.
They're running all over the place. Scully gets in the car. Budget Terminator jumps on it. Scully sounds the.
There's one sequence I just quickly wanted to touch on.
Go on.
Before that, obviously, Jeremiah's run away. Budget Terminator and Mulder are trying to get to Jeremiah first. And then they both kind of come into a room at separate points as they're chasing after Jeremiah. And they stop. And you can see the Budget Terminator looking at Mulder, weighing it up and just going, look, it's not even worth the effort. Walking away. And Scully at least get knocked out of the way. He's just like, no.
Yeah, he's like, I've seen you fight. There's no threat. I'm moving on. He has to take Scully down because she's actually a threat. But Mulder, not so much. So Scully sounds the horn when Budget Terminator jumps on top of the car. Mulder bags the Budget Terminator, kind of sticks it in the neck. Does it really half-heartedly? Yeah, he cocks up basically. Although it would have been nice if X sort of told him when they had their little fisticuffs last episode that there's a very particular spot in the neck that you have to hit. Yeah. You can't just go for any point. Boom, that's it.
Although the shock twist to see Mulder getting the upper hand coming out from the flips.
Yeah, doing his best Rambo impersonation. Okay, so Mulder then goes off to plead with Jeremiah to come and see his mum and heal her in hospital. Scully checks the body of Budget Terminator, regrets it big time because his big beefy sausage-like fingers come up and grab her hand. His hand looks massive. I don't know if you noticed.
It's against her. Yeah.
It's like at the end when he puts his hand on Mrs. Mulder's head. His fingers are just like cramps around her head. But so Jeremiah tells Mulder that it's foolish to go to his mother because they'll be waiting for them there, and that instead he should take him to see the project, where he can get all the answers and evidence and this, that, and the other. So
he throws the caveat of see your sister.
Yeah,
just fishing line and just reeling him in.
Yeah, he's been taking lessons out of the Cancer Man handbook, basically. Yeah.
But this sequence is, for all intents and purposes, it's just a glorified chase sequence, and it's really elongated as well.
Yeah.
Which is it's like using up a lot of the runtime. I mean, you look at the entire episode.
Yeah.
Not a great deal really happens.
There's quite a lot of padding.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of padding. It's got to be said, because that, like I say, once you get to the end and you go back and you think about it, that all that stuff with the guy at the beginning and the children of the damned, it's not needed.
No.
Because when we do eventually get to the compound, we see that there's a whole bunch of clones. So setting up the idea that they're clones.
Yep.
If anything, it takes away from the reveal when we get to the
100%.
The farm. Because when we get there and Mulder sees his sister and this other kid, and then boom, sees another version of his sister, and then we're expecting that already because we've seen this kid and we know there's like 5 of him. So that's not a surprise to us. It's a surprise to Mulder, but it's not for us. So it takes away from us, the audience, watching that. So literally that opening scene, complete padding, and then you, like you say, you get to this chase sequence, and it does seem to go on a bit, like and it's not like it's not the most excitingly shot kind of chase sequence. It's mostly in a dark, abandoned warehouse, and it's just like they're running over that beam, then they're running over this beam, and then there's no like great camera movements of big action. It's just it feels like padding. It's got to be said.
And it's one of those episodes that whenever they get to a point where they kind of run out of steam, or they're going to have to give some vital information, or something's going to happen, boom, Budget Terminator appears out of absolute nowhere to cause chaos, just to shake things up. And it adds more chase sequences that, again, I'm not really that interested in this one.
Yeah. Feels like they're there for the sake of them being there rather than, Okay. So, Cancerman is at Mrs. Mulder's bedside, and then the guy who I'm going to refer to as Wheezy Man, because he talks like this. He talks like he's a Sicilian gangster. I'm going to put a horse's head in your bed. So I'm going to call him Wheezy Man. I think he's actually referred to as grey-haired man. I think that's the name they've given him, grey-haired man.
That's an inspired nickname.
That is an inspired. Yeah, it's no well-manicured man or cancer man. He just gets grey-haired man. Do you think when he saw that in the script sheet, he's like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, technically they could have went blander and just went man.
man. So anyway, I'm going to refer to him as Wheezy Man because I feel it's more descriptive. Wheezy Man comes in and says they need to set a trap of misinformation to catch whoever it was that took the photos of Cancer Man and Mrs. Mulder. So,
Which I like the idea of, but how it plays out, I don't really know.
Well, I think it's
if they know someone's going to Mulder's flat and giving the information, why can't they just watch that preemptively beforehand? Why suddenly now do they decide to watch Mulder's flat? Do you know what I mean?
Well, they didn't know somebody was giving him. Well, I don't know. Just I think the kicker is that clearly they send someone to scope out Mulder's flat at this point because of what Wheezy Man's saying. And then at some point during the episode, obviously Scully's going to put the X up on the thing. X is going to go and visit. So whoever is watching Mulder's apartment at that point will then report back to Wheezy Man and say, yep, we know who it is. We saw him go to Mulder's flat. And then obviously they then set him up later. And
set him up, yeah.
So that's how it plays out. But, the question of why weren't they watching Mulder's flat earlier is one that needs to be asked. And it is one of those situations where they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because in the season finale for this season, I think it is, that is going to come back to bite them on the ass, as a bit of a plot hole. It's got to be said.
Right.
Major plot hole. If I remember correctly, but we'll get there when we get there. Whether I remember to bring it up at that point will be another matter entirely. But if you remember, just remind me that there was a plot hole I was going to discuss.
I'm definitely not going to remember that. I'll stay a little.
Yeah. Okay, so Mulder and Jeremiah break down conveniently. Conveniently break down in the car. They didn't think to, fill up with fuel, knowing that they were going on a long journey. But again, contrivance that is going to allow them to.
We've bypassed the scene because we've got Scully on the phone and Bridget Terminator in the car. That's before the breakdown, isn't it?
No, it's not.
That is because he's in the car driving when he's on the phone.
Oh, yeah, we missed that at the... did we? Hang on.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, we missed it. Basically, Scully's on the phone to Mulder at some point. And basically... Budget Terminator hears where it is that Jeremiah is taking Mulder. So, he hears like the rough area, so presumably he'll know from that where he's going to take him. And Scully shouts down the phone, "He's coming for you! He's coming! So now, had the breakdown not happened, because this is where the contrivance comes in, this is where the convenience comes in. The writers are thinking we need to get Budget Terminator to this compound not too long after Mulder and Jeremiah get there. But Mulder and Jeremiah have got like quite a long head start, a good
Yes.
few hours at the least.
Well, we find out the compound's in Canada, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Something like that. So yeah. So they've got a good head start. So that's the only reason they have them break down. So they then have to walk on foot, and it's going to take them a few hours, which gives Budget Terminator more time to catch up and for it to make sense logically. Which, fine, whatever.
I think I would have preferred to see Mulder get there and over the course of one awesome montage become almost witness style part of this community, working hand in hand with his sister.
Yep. Okay, so Scully goes to see Skinner. He wants to know what her suspicions are about the 5 Jeremiah Smiths. Being all like, looking all judgmental, like he's going to chew her out. And then when she says, I don't really have any at the minute, he goes, well, we do. And I'm really like, I'm suck it. We did it. You didn't. It just feels unnecessarily dramatic, Skinner, to the way you deliver that piece of information. But that basically leads us to seeing Pendrell has found files that the men worked on, the 5 Jeremiah Smiths worked on.
Yes.
So there's a piece of dialogue here that made me crack up, where he's absolutely gobsmacked because there's enough data on there to fill 7-10 gigabyte hard drives.
Wow.
I can literally fit all that on my laptop now.
My phone.
Yeah. Okay, so Scully takes a printout of one of the pages from this thing. She's going to try and find out what it is. And then we go to Mulder and Jeremiah find the body of the telegraph worker.
Yes.
So again, it pads out the episode a bit. We see, we see that he's been stung by bees. He's been killed by bees. But
the bees.
we don't need it. We don't need it because we're going to get to the compound and we're going to see that what these kids are doing are working with bees.
Yes.
They're growing bees. They're helping these weird bees to thrive. We're going to have a few little lines of dialogue from Jeremiah to fill anything out that these scenes presumably might give, which they don't really. So all we need to know is that bees and bee husbandry are a part of the Grand Master Plan, which we get all this from when we get to the compound.
Absolutely.
Having the guy get killed, having the creepy kids show up at the beginning, don't need it. Finding his body here, we don't need it. It's just not necessary. It's padding.
Like I said, I thought they were going to jump in the van and use that to get to the compound. I really did. But they just leave it. Because Mulder kind of turns and nods towards the van as if. But all Jeremiah does is take out some binoculars, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't remember. That's not the van that's used to smash the telephone box later, is it?
It could be.
When Budget Terminator rocks up.
I didn't think about it until you said it, but it could be. Yeah.
I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think did they not steal his car when they go away because they leave him covered in bees?
Yeah.
They have a car all of a sudden.
Yeah. They steal his car, and then presumably he goes and he gets that van. But
see, that's actually well thought out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why they needed it. That's why they needed it all. But yeah, okay. So, but that's a lot of padding to give us that van.
Yeah, but that takes two people analysing the episode to try and figure that out.
Yeah.
It's not in your face.
Okay. Oh man. But they can get around that by literally not having their car break down, have them get to the compound and just spend a bit more time there, allowing for Budget Terminator to turn up, or have Scully make the call to Mulder a bit sooner so that Budget Terminator's hot on their heels.
Yeah.
So literally, you're not adding any scenes; you're just keeping the ones you've got, but it frees you up to get rid of ones that you're padding out the episode with. It's just, yeah. Either way you cut it, it's just unnecessary. So, so they find the body of the telegraph worker, and then they find a flowering shrub, which is this big field. Basically, they're looking down on it with binoculars, and Mulder's asking like what it is. Jeremiah says it's a flowering shrub, something that they've basically created, something they've I think he says hegemony, Mr. Mulder, or something like that, which goes over my head. But basically, it's a plant that has been manufactured by the syndicate.
Right.
Now, what it does,
I thought it was an alien plant.
Yes, well, that's what I mean. So it'd be some kind of alien Earth hybrid kind of thing that's going on. That all we need to know is it's a government-run experiment that has got its roots in the alien colonization program. Basically, more questions are raised than answers given.
Yep,
as is often the case. And we see Samantha, a drone worker, as Jeremiah refers to her, and it turns out to be clones because it's not just one Samantha. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
So,
but it's not really impactful either.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have that gut punch that I think they're aiming to deliver. You know, when you see his sister as she was when she was abducted, it just it falls flat. Like there's no.
It falls flat because it's like
it's not her.
We know it's not her. Like if it's a girl that looks like Samantha, that's the same age Samantha was when she was abducted, then we know it's not her. It's clearly a clone. There's no tension there as to what's really going on. We've seen the opening sequence with those 5 lookalike kids, one of which is with this version of Samantha right now. So you, even before you've seen the other Samanthas, you're kind of thinking, clone, I'm expecting a bunch more to pop up any minute, and they do. So, yeah. So we go to a scene in which Scully contacts X. So she goes into Mulder's apartment, which is something she has a habit of doing, just letting herself into Mulder's apartment. I don't know how many times now. I think I've lost count of the amount of times she just wandered into Mulder's apartment.
Well, she seems to spend more time there than he does.
So she contacts X, who rocks up, and basically he's saying, you're looking into the wrong thing. Leave this paperwork. Protect the mother. Protect Mulder's mother. That's who they'll try and do over. But Scully's like adamant. She kind of gets in his face the way she does, and she's like, I want to know what this means. And she basically shows X the piece of paper that she had printed off, and he says SEP, which stands for Smallpox Eradication Program.
But Scully here is handles X far better than Mulder ever does. Like she's like, no, I want to know about this. Confirm or deny.
Yeah,
look, that's your options. Like, tell me or don't tell me.
Yeah, the thing is, she's got no emotional kind of ties to this guy because I think as far as she's concerned, he's part of the problem. If he's part of the secret, if he's part of the organisation that deals in these secrets, and he's got the information and he's not willing to give it unless it's like on his own terms, then as far as she's concerned, he's just as bad as the people that that Mulder rails against. But with Mulder, because it's his crusade, because he's so religiously fervent in pursuing this truth that he's looking for, he allows himself to be hung on a line, as we saw with Wet Wired, where it's like, dude, you've literally just brushed over 2 murders because you're worried about losing your informant. Like, there's no way Scully would do that.
No.
There's no way Scully would let X walk out. So,
but she's looking for information, and she gets it.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
Like she works him rather than allowing X to work her, almost. Which is great to see her just stand up. She does it again later on. I really like that kind of version of Scully.
Yeah.
You know.
Scully kicks ass. Okay. So Mulder wants to take one of the Samanthas, but Jeremiah says it's unwise.
It just sounds weird when you say that. He just wants to take one of the Samanthas. No,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Jeremiah says it's unwise, obviously.
yeah.
And then just as they're arguing about whether or not to take Samantha home with them, because technically she's... Yeah. Yeah. Budget Terminator shows up. So they hide in a bee apiary, and Mulder douses himself in petrol. It's like, okay. I feel like, considering Mulder's this highly intelligent guy who's, you know, a serial killer profiler, he's, you know, considered one of the, or was considered one of the bright sparks in the FBI. He does some pretty stupid stuff.
Yeah. I understand why he's doing it, but it feels like the start of a really bad magic trick.
It's like, somebody got a light. The next part of magic. Yeah. So they hide in the bee apiary. Mulder douses himself in petrol, and then Terminator gets Candyman, yeah. So he comes down looking for them. They realise they've kind of basically buried themselves in their own trap, because there's only one way in and out, and they've just come in through it. So they basically topple over a big pile of honeycomb onto Budget Terminator,
which we know is extremely heavy. Honeycomb.
Yeah. But it basically. It sends all the bees into a frenzy. They basically all sting Budget Terminator.
And can I just say, the remnants of this scene through the rest of the episode gave me the chuckles. Every time he appeared back on the screen, I was killing myself laughing. Because we know he can shapeshift and heal.
Yeah.
Nope. We're just going to have these welts all over his face every time he's in the next scene.
The thing is, he can heal from certain things. Can he heal from a sting by a bee that has got an alien kind of...
So here's a question. If he changed his appearance, would he still have all the sting marks? These are the important questions that we need answers for, Brian.
Oh, man. Oh, good grief. Just wait till we get to season 8, man. It's something that happens in season 8 in the opener. It's just stupid. And I've never heard anyone call it out. And I'm just like, it's never happened. Like, throughout the rest of the history of the X-Files, they've always paid due diligence to this certain thing that, like, clearly the alien shapeshifters can't do. And then all of a sudden, when it's convenient for the plot... yeah, we'll get there when we get there. See you in 4 years, everyone.
2 years, Brian.
2 years, yeah. Oh, good grief. All right, okay. Man, I'm just hung up on that now. I want to know if he shapeshifted, would he still have the welts? I can only assume yes. And I can only assume that because those bees are the result of some alien hybridization project, that's why he can't just like shapeshift them away. But because it's gone into his bloodstream rather than just scarred his skin. That's the way I'm going to look at it anyway. So Scully impresses Agent Pendrell with her knowledge of the SEP find, the smallpox eradication program. So once again, we see Agent Pendrell fawning over Agent Scully.
Googly eyes.
So,
Scully, you're so smart.
How did you find that out? Oh, it's just you amaze me. So there's a 20-letter sequence. The 20-letter sequence is a reference to a protein amino acid code. In this case, for the cowpox vaccine used to inoculate humans. So there's a lot of stuff said here that is just like, if you're not paying attention, it's just like...
Biological barcode.
Yeah, basically. Like... This is one of those scenes that makes the show perfect for DVD, where you can wind it back. But when you saw it on its initial broadcast way back when, if you weren't paying attention, you come out of this episode thinking, I got nothing. I got nothing. Basically, all the stuff, as is often the case, we've said this many times before, all the stuff in this episode with Scully is the stuff that is really interesting, really holds my attention, feels like we're actually learning stuff about the wider scope of things. Everything else with Mulder feels like it's a little bit silly. It's mostly action orientated, so that we get to see Mulder running about doing stuff, but ultimately isn't as thrilling or exciting as the information that Scully is just reeling off. Like Scully just talking science. Like at one point, where is it? So it's
the next scene.
We're not quite there, I don't think. So Scully deduces that a second 15-digit code is a catalogue code for every human on the planet who has been inoculated. She explains her findings to a room full of suits. So basically what I put in my note is she gets to science the shit out of it. Because that's essentially...
I like this sequence a lot because you never see them just debriefing the city superiors, and she's giving them all the information, all the facts, and when they challenge it, she's articulate, astute with what she's saying. She's not saying it's definitely this, just that it's worth investigating. There seems to be anomalies, which I really like. And then Skinner drags her outside and gives her a row.
But it's just like, from an acting standpoint, this is it's one of those scenes where it's the ER school of acting, where ER is very famous for, obviously everyone's playing doctors, but they've got to reel off pages and pages of spiel that's all common man doesn't understand. You know what I mean? It's surgical procedural language that we're just like, no idea. But that's what she's doing here. Yeah.
I think my favourite part of this sequence is when somebody challenges something and she's like, with the aid of my glamorous assistant, Pendrell, who looks so happy to be out of the lab. He's like, we did a test on his thing as well, and it's different. But it's just fun seeing that kind of double act with these two. Yeah. If you check his face, he's so happy.
I think Penguin's just so excited to be Scully's wingman.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm in there. I'm in there. Like, Scully wants me as a wingman. I'll do anything for her. So
I could picture him having like those slides on his wall. Framed.
Okay, so it's a great scene. Probably my favourite scene actually in the episode, mostly because it just makes everything feel legitimate. It legitimizes all this nonsense that we're seeing. Like, you're looking at it and you're thinking, it's all a bit hokey, it's all a bit weird. But the moment Scully just starts rattling off all this spiel that's like flying over your head, it instantly makes it feel scientifically plausible. And that was always the goal of the show. When it first started out, the goal was always to present something that is far out, is fiction, and really attach the science to it. And often they don't quite get there. They fill in some little supposedly scientific explanation. It's like, it's enough for us to get by and go, okay, I'll accept this, suspend disbelief and all that. Whereas with this, all the stuff she's saying here, like the language she's using is like really, they've really cranked up the science in order to make this seem plausible. To the extent that I almost believe that Chris Carter probably believes there is some conspiracy about the smallpox vaccination thing. So yeah. But so she also insinuates during that sequence that a government agency has been cataloguing everybody for the past 50 years. Yeah. And that's basically what makes Skinner kind of go outside. So they step outside. Skinner's like, you're on dodgy ground, Scully. It's like he's literally in a room full of government guys, and you're insinuating that the government's.
Yeah, I think he's kind of fallen into the realm of like angry police chief almost. He's always kind of mad a little bit. He never downplayed it, and I remember him being more fun, where you get it in some episodes, but other episodes he's just like the angry dad.
Maybe he's still dealing with the aftermath of Avatar. Everything that happened in Avatar is still a bit grumpy because of that. But yeah, I think a lot of it as well is that he's now in the position that he's got to make a choice to either go back in that room and back up his agents, or it's just like, how do you deal with that as their superior, and also you go in that room and they're all going to be looking at you going, well, she was a laugh riot, wasn't she? He's got to be like, where do I come down on this? Where do I fit?
I think you're focusing on the wrong part of this conversation, Brian. I think you're focusing too much on Skinner and too much on Scully, and you're forgetting that Pendrell is in that room with those superiors, and we don't know what the hell he's saying.
Yeah, it's just, no, you got to believe Scully. She's amazing. Oh, I've seen her do so many great things. Yeah, she's totally
like that. We are like that.
So she reminds Skinner that she's a scientist and that she was assigned to the X-Files to put Mulder's work to the test of science, which is precisely what she's done. So yeah, which was a nice call out.
Yep.
She gets a call from Mulder telling her to meet them at the hospital with his mother. And then moments later, Budget Terminator busts some stuff up, presumably. At that point, anyway, you think he's killed Jeremiah Smith. Basically, he smashes through the telephone box with what I think is that van.
But let me ask you this: why is the telephone box in the middle of the road? Because there's nothing round about it. It's not near any side street or pavements or nothing. They literally park the car one side of it, and the truck or the van comes the other side of it.
I think it's a ghost town. It looks like a ghost town. I mean, obviously that area must be something of a ghost town, because that's why the government have been able to set up that thing there.
But it literally looks like that phone box is just sitting in the middle of nothing at all. And it does the sort of Matrix hand against the screen.
Yeah, So Budget Terminator throws Mulder against the van, beats him up a bit.
But talks to him.
Yeah. That's a nice little chat. There is something that he says there, which is that
everybody dies.
Well, he says everybody dies, but he also says he shows you pieces but nothing of the whole because he's inconsequential. If he's telling the truth, which in this instance I'm gonna go with, okay, let's say he's telling the truth. If you think about it for a minute, it's like it is. If you're say if you're in an organisation, say if you're working at Matalan, whatever. I don't know. I work because I worked there when I was younger. That's why it popped into my head. You're working at Matalan. You're a cleaner in the morning. Okay, that's nothing against cleaners, but you're on the bottom rung of the ladder. Okay, you're a cleaner. You're still part of the organisation, but do you have any clue what is going on in the management rooms and how they're running the business? No, you don't. You might throw out some conjecture and you might have words to say about the managers because you're on the bottom and you're like, I hate the management, so they say this and that, and it's like, I'm not doing that, screw them. That's essentially where Jeremiah Smith could be. If he's on the bottom rung of the ladder, it's like, look, this is your job. You go in the social security office, you catalogue everyone. That's it. That's your job. The extent of his knowledge after that might be somewhat limited. Could
be. It offers doubt to the fact, but it feels like an almost intergalactic, typical kind of regime in rebellion, almost. You know, where you've got so you don't know who to trust. You know, it's put across that Jeremiah seems more placid. You know, trying to help people, and you've got Budget Terminator from the other side, who seems to be an unstoppable force of destruction and death, which leads you towards good and bad. But the motivations behind their choices are hidden for us. We don't know as yet, which is interesting.
Okay, so Mulder shows up 5 hours late to the hospital in shock.
What a swagger! He struts down that hospital. It's like you could almost see the wind machine, people getting out his way going like, oh my God. It's like the cool kids in a high
slow motion
movie.
blowing hair.
You're just like, wow. Loved it. I honestly laughed out loud. I was killing myself. I was like, what a walk. You go, girl. You are owning it.
I do like seeing the way Scully kind of handles him, and she realizes he's in shock and takes him to one side. And there's a nice moment actually there from David Duchovny where he goes to the wrong door.
Yeah,
because he's so like, I don't know if you've ever been so out of it and so just worn and just, like, that's it. You just at the end of your tether, you're broken, and you start doing things that's like you don't even know why you're doing it. And it's a nice little moment where he just goes for a door handle. It's like any door handle. It's like, why are you trying to get through that door, Mulder? It's like, it's not even it's a closet. It's like this way. So it's just a nice little natural moment in the acting after the slow motion catwalk kind of strutting. But so we go from there to X being terminated at Mulder's apartment. So there's an X on the window again. So he showed up and realizes there's something wrong here. No one's here. Mulder's not here. So he starts walking back. He goes to the lift. But he's keeping his eye on the apartment, which is a mistake because when the lift doors open, boom! It's that same dude. Who was behind all the nonsense in Avatar. So that Skinner episode, a few episodes back. Remember, there was an imprint on the airbag of the guy's face. It's him again. So he makes a return, and he kills X. Yep. So but X has just enough time to crawl down the corridor and scribble something on it. But Mulder tells Scully what he saw. So they're at the bedside. They're at Mrs. Mulder's bedside having a chat. And we get a scene that's kind of a variation on a scene we've seen quite a few times now. We saw it at the end of the whole Anasazi trilogy, where they're at a hospital bed. In that case, it was Scully's sister. And, Mulder says, I've seen too much to not believe. And Scully's like, I've seen things too, but from a scientific perspective. So it's essentially that again. He says he's seen too many things not to believe. And Scully says something which is quite nice, which is nothing happens in contradiction to nature, only what we know of it. Which is kind of the whole faith versus science thing put into perspective, which is that it shouldn't really be a case of faith versus science, only that science should, what's the word? Science supports faith once we get to the bottom of things. You know, there's only so much we know about the world, and science kind of. I know what I'm saying in my head, but I can't quite get the words out. I did a whole essay on this in on one of my channels. Anyway, but yeah, just basically that the two can coexist side by side. It's just that one enhances the other, gives us a better understanding of the other once we get to the root of it. So. It's essentially Scully's way of saying, yeah, I agree. But it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to start believing in aliens.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we get to see what... Did you have something to say?
No,
yeah,
you go.
X, yeah. So we get to see what X scribbled on the floor, which is SRSG. What do you think about X being killed?
Syzygy?
Yeah. Surg. Is this like a virus or something? What do you think about X being killed?
I honestly, I was like, is he dead? And then because it goes back to him and you see him crawling, I was like, oh, is he going to survive? And then I was like, no, he's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, the relationship had run to an end throughout this season.
Yeah, it run its course. I think. But this is precisely why I have even more of a problem with everything that happened in Wet Wired, because I feel like this moment would have more power behind it as well if Mulder and X had come to blows in Wet Wired. You know, if Mulder's drew a line in the sand, you just killed people, I can't let you go, I'm going to arrest you. No, you're not. Boom. X punches him out. And then that's it. From then on, it's like really, really kind of rocky relationship. And then in this episode, which is like literally two episodes after that, he gets killed, which kind of would add a bit more tragedy to it. But at this point, it's kind of like, right, okay. Yeah, X has run his course. That's it. Boom, he's out. So, yeah. But SRSG, which stands for Special Representatives to the Secretary General, which is in the United Nations, and we get our first meeting with Marita Covarrubias. So this lady, you may recognise her from, you may recognise the actress from Walking Dead. I've not seen Walking Dead, but she was in it. She was in Silent Hill as well. Yeah, I think. Right, okay. She's quite a well-known actress at this by now.
Is this a returning character?
Yes. So she's basically the new X. She's the new Deep Throat. Okay?
X squared. Right, got it. X
squared, yeah. And she will be the longest lasting of the Deep Throats. The informants, that's the word, the informants. She will go on to be the longest lasting informant. So this is the first one. She's not a bad looker, got to be said. Just throwing that out there. But so she basically tells Mulder that nothing was found. That's it. It's just there's nothing. We've got nothing to go on. Gives him a file. Yeah, there's nothing there. Sorry. And as he's walking away, he opens it up, and there's a bunch of photos in there, which is basically her way of saying, "Here's a load of info." But obviously we're probably being recorded, so I have to make out that we didn't found out. I'm giving you nothing. We found nothing. Check the file.
She also has like a good counterpoint to Budget Terminator, where she says, "Not everything dies," which is a nice little bookmark within those two kind of segments as well. Yeah, so I like
absolutely. So Cancerman has Budget Terminator come to Mrs. Mulder's bedside. wants him to heal her, but he's like, I have to know why, because it's but
just why?
yeah, why? Cancerman makes a good case, says that because the fiercest enemy is the man with nothing left to lose, meaning that if Mulder loses his mum, he's got nothing left to lose, which is nonsense because he's still got Scully. And then, but obviously, I mean, he's only saying this just to win Budget Terminator over. So, but he says, and we know how important Agent Mulder is to the project, which says that obviously there's a grander plan involving Mulder, which fills us in as to why Budget Terminator hasn't just killed Mulder, because he's had his hands on him several times during this episode, and he always just seems to toss him to one side.
Yeah,
like you go back to like what you were saying at the beginning, where it's just like, yeah, you're not worth it, and he walks off. I think part of that is, I literally can't touch you. It's you're part of the grander plan. So, yeah. And that's it. He heals Mrs. Mulder. So wrap ups. What do you think?
Sure. This is something I've touched on before. I feel whenever an X-File episode deals with legacy storyline, it deals with something that's going to carry on through, or introduces things that's going to appear in later episodes or the movie or whatever, I feel it's sometimes praised a little bit higher than it should be. Particularly this episode, which is extremely padded out. It is, in essence, a big chase sequence where we get to know that there is clones and there is a kind of terraforming trying to happen with bees, because bees are, nature's kind of farmers, spreading the pollen and whatever. And that could be condensed to such a short part of the episode. Now, it does have a shining light in the form of Scully. Everything she does is investigative, is probative, and it yields some sort of information that's going to, actual hard facts, which is good. But Mulder, again, is almost, he's just running about like a headless chicken. It seems like, aimless, and just following people who's telling him they've got magic beans, and he just runs away, and that's it. Budget Terminator appears, and I don't know how he seems to track these people, but he just seems to appear out of nowhere. Certain times, like even at the start of the episode, how did he know they were there at that factory? Do you know? How did he know they were at that phone box? It just, things just happen, and it's never really explained. And as much as the episode, it kind of keeps going forward because of the propulsive nature of the chase sequences, when you look back at it, it's bland. There's lots of dead filling space in there that just could be removed. And I've kind of been down a bit on my thoughts on this one. I was at about 3.5. I think I'm going to go for a 3 on this opener. And as the openers go, this is the worst of all 4 seasons so far.
Yes, yeah. I agree with everything you just said. And going back to your opening statement about how the X-Files fans probably rate this a bit higher because it's a mythology episode. I think I'm guilty of that. Because last night or the night before when I watched this and I did my notes on it, I did give it a 4 out of 5. I came away and I thought, well, it's not a perfect mythology one, is it? So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. And it's just this instinctive kind of thing. And I'm looking at it, and because we've talked about it, I'm like, I can't really give it a 4 out of 5 because it's so problematic. There's so much in it that you could take out. There's only really half an hour's worth of episode here.
Yes.
And they've had to pad it out. Yeah. And they've just had to pad it out. It's just, I love all the Scully stuff. And I'm entertained by the Budget Terminator stuff. Because I like that character, the unstoppable kind of, and the threat that he poses. It's entertaining and that, but it's just it is a lot of padding. It's a lot of padding. It doesn't really go anywhere. I feel like Scully's stuff goes somewhere a bit more kind of vital, a bit more illuminating. And like you say, it's that thing all the time where Mulder does just seem to wander into things. Scully's very purposefully driven. She wants a piece of information. once she's got it, she's gonna tackle that. She's gonna explore that, go into it, and then. But whereas Mulder, it's just like somebody tells him that, oh, they've got to come here and see something. So he's like, all right, because he's so. And this isn't a bad thing with regards to character, because that's his character. I think that's how you define who these two people are. They're chalk and cheese. They're opposites. You know, Mulder is almost driven by a faith, whereas Scully is like, you know, really dogged science. And that's why Mulder's so quick to just bumble onto things and think, okay, if you're telling me there's something over there, I'm going to go over there. But as a viewer, that does make you think sometimes. It's not so bright, is it? It's just not always come off looking so bright. So, like you, I am going to go with a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
It's it's good. It's entertaining enough, but must do better.
Yeah. Well, speaking of must do better, tell me a little bit about episode 2, Home.
Okay. So now this is one that is very much talked about amongst the X-Files community. It's basically X-Files does Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, for anyone who knows me and knows my love of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and by that I mean burning hatred because I can't stand the franchise, you might very well think that this is not the episode for me. However, you might be wrong. So we'll see when we get there. But it is an episode that was banned from television.
Nice.
So for many years, I don't even know if the ban's been lifted. I imagine it has done now. Because it's on Disney Plus now. But it's on Disney Plus. It's an episode of television that was banned is now on Disney Plus, the most family orientated company ever. It just get your noggin around that one. But with good reason. Like it's got a lot of stuff in there that's like, really? You're putting that on prime time? Okay. And even now it's still a bit gnarly, even by today's standards.
I can't wait. I can't wait. This is one episode that I've seen a couple of comments mentioned to me about Home's great. You're going to love Home. I am excited about that one. So good. That's something to look forward to, and it's good to be back after our break talking about X-Files again.
Yep.
As always, if you want to support the YouTube channel by liking or subscribing, if you want to go into whatever review on podcasts that we have and give us 5 stars, highest rating, let other people discover our love for the X-Files, that would be amazing. We'd both appreciate that, wouldn't we, Brian?
We absolutely would, yeah. And do share this video as well if you can. You know, it's really simple. Take that link at the top, just share it to Facebook, to Twitter, wherever, because obviously if you've got friends out there that trust your opinion and they don't know about this podcast, they might click on that link and become a fan, and that's what we want. So
yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much, and we will see you next week for Home.
Bye.